Hi, Dr. Asri. I'm Joey, and we are going to present our assignment on the topic of enhancing Malaysian public sector transparency, issues and initiatives. Our group member consists of Jenny, Zihui, Winnie, and also me. So let us start with the introduction of this research. Transparency is generally regarded as a key element of good governance. Transparency enables accountability by empowering citizens, the media, monitoring bodies, and other stakeholders to find, process, and also reuse government data to generate meaningful information and also knowledge. In Malaysia, although the principles and processes of democratization have been introduced, the realization of transparency and also accountability have been greatly constrained due to various forms of social divides based on class, caste, and also gender. Since gaining independence in 1957, Malaysia is on track to transforming from a developing country to a developed one. Anti-corruption laws and also ethical codes have been established and enforced to avoid unethical actions against regulation. Many public sector initiatives, such as clean, efficient, and trustworthy, integration of Islamic values, excellent work culture, code of work ethics, and also ISO 9000 have been introduced to improve system delivery and also accountability. Despite efforts to improve service delivery, criticism and also complaints on public service continue to exist. Public sector of Malaysia has long been criticized for its inefficiency, red tape, lack of flexibility, ineffective accountability, and also poor performance. The people even claim that public sector is easily manipulated by malevolent people. In recent years, government transparency came to prominence as cases of public sector corruption scandals, such as the 1MDB fund, has led to a growing demand from society to access public information. The corruption case of the 1MDB fund in Malaysia has been listed as one of the world's biggest corruption schemes in the world, as it is estimated for being embezzled up to $4 billion. This misappropriation of public funds supposedly meant to help the Malaysian people went missing. Consequently, the Malaysian government needs to pay for its debt due to the insolvency, and the public trust in both politicians and also institutions of government eroded. The states of affairs of Malaysian government transparency and accountability have been captured by several worldwide studies in their ranking, which were mostly conducted by independent non-governmental organizations. One of the organizations is Transparency International. Transparency International aims to combat global corruption with civil societal anti-corruption measures and to prevent criminal activities from arising from corruption. Based on Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index ranking in 2019, Malaysia has moved up from 61 to 51, least corruption nation in the world. However, corruption continues to be one of the key challenges faced by Malaysia, as it is still weak compared to the top scorers such as Singapore, Switzerland, and Denmark. Another independent non-governmental body is International Budget Partnership, which conducted a separate study called Open Budget Index, which reflects a country's budget transparency score and assesses the public's access to information on how the central government raises and spends public resources. In the Open Budget Index 2019 from the International Budget Partnership, Malaysia is being ranked from the 55th place out of 117 countries, with a transparency score of only 47 out of 100. A transparency score of 61 and above only indicates a country is likely publishing sufficient material to support informed public debate on the budget. Malaysia only has limited information available on the central government's budget and financial activities and needs more commitment to improve national budgets, transparency, and also oversight. Based on the background description above, we contribute to the literature by attempting to provide an answer to the following research question. The first one, what is the issues of public sector transparency in Malaysian government agencies? And the second one, how the Malaysian government respond to improve public sector transparency. Therefore, our purposes of this study is to provide evidence on the issues of public sector transparency in Malaysian government agencies and to discuss the initiatives of Malaysian government to improve public sector transparency with the objective of regaining public trust and confidence. Next, I would like to invite Jenny to continue on the literature review part.
Thank you, Joey. Now I'll continue on the literature review part. So for this part, presentations will be focused on 5 parts, which are the definition of transparency, its importance and emergence of issues, its challenges, and part 4, arises of corruption and its impact. And also the last part will be on the initiatives taken by Malaysia in order to curb corruption. So the first part will be on the definition of transparency. The Oxford English Dictionary have records many early uses and meanings of the word and its adjective, from transmitting light to something that is apparent or understood. In other words, it's viewable or understood by the public. So there are previous studies, which is on Finner and Lord. A recorded transparency is defined as the degree of openness in conveying information and seen as a device signaling the trustworthiness of the actor in its negotiations. So it also refers to the reveal of the data or information to the public, and it will give confidence to the users. So the next part is on the importance and issues on transparency. So we have known what is transparency. Now let's understand the importance of transparency towards public sector and the government. So it is an important mechanisms against corruption, as the transparency relates to constraining corruption, where the principles here may include government officers. So in a polities in which corruption is endemic, many government actors and institutions may be enmeshed, which is also involved in, and therefore corruption will happen. The endemic here will refers to a system corruption, which primarily due to the weakness of an organization. So according to Transparency International, it puts it, transparency empowers citizens to participate in and follow up on local government's activities. It also says that if the actors of the local governance system are open in clear disclosure of their information, then the corruption will be harder to hide. So the next part is the challenges. So actually, it's not easy for the government or public sector to adopt the transparency element into their financial reporting. So one of certainly in which the challenges will face is the open government policies, which will involve matching data and information requirements and needs of citizens and also businesses to data made available by public organizations. So the government should therefore adopt a citizen-centered or user's perspective in order to generate public value and also to gain public trust. So how is the culture of this transparency being promoted? This culture of transparency in the public sector is largely dependent on the responsiveness of the actors of public sector and to the demand for information by citizens and businesses, where they'll need to take affirmative steps to make information available to the public without waiting for specific requests. They can do so by having proactive disclosure in their website. So according to previous studies, which is Piotrowski and Bartley, they've stated that the ease of accessing information owned by government is one of the things that concern the community. This is because it involves many aspects to be taken care of by the government and requires all kinds of resources. So next, okay. So if the challenges mentioned previously are not overcome by the government, corruption will arise and it will continue to give impacts to the country. That is why recent years have seen a strong and sustained call for greater government transparency, thus limiting the scope for corruption with impunity, which also refers to escape. So corruption could result in deficiencies, poor governance, and society could suffer because of these activities. The more corruption, the less public accountability or transparency the organization be, which is indicative of poor governance. And this could lead to the eventual demise of the organization. As for Malaysia, being a developing country, the government has attempted to bring about significant improvements in dealing with corruption. So the last part will brief on the initiatives taken by Malaysia to curb corruption. Evidence from the reports by Transparency International 2019 on the Corruption Perceptions Index have shown that Malaysia have improved in terms of their corruption score, which is from 47 to 53. And this is because of the swift action taken by the government to address large scandal cases like 1MDB. MACC was also established in 2008 for the sake of managing corruption. So other factors which also contributes to curb corruption are greater media freedom, asset declaration by the ruling party members of parliament, enforcement of the corporate liability provision under section 17A, and lastly, the Pakatan Harapan governments have committed with the 5-year National Anti-Corruption Plan. So as a summary for literature review part, the previous research has defined what is transparency, and it is understood that transparency is indeed a crucial element in maintaining good governance. So it can be said that transparency is directly linked to the corruption issue in public sector of Malaysia, as less transparency would create such an opportunity for those who agree to gain private benefits. Hence, initiatives have been taken by the government of Malaysia in which results in improvement in CBI. So next, I'll pass on to Winnie to continue on the methodology part.
Hi, sir. I'm Chawini, and I'll be presenting the methodology part. In this study, we have used qualitative method, which the method is to make sense of the facts we collected. This study has employed the generic inquiry method, which is the focus is generally on understanding an experience or event. We have collected secondary data in this study, which the data is made readily for other researchers to use for their own research. We have also searched for published and academic resources, articles in journals, newspapers, and magazines through some databases and search engines, such as Science Direct, ResearchGate, Emerald Insight, the Star official website, and Google Web Search. We search through the databases by using several keywords, such as transparency, accountability, corruption, public sector, and government, with the combination of these words with qualitative. Moreover, we also collected our findings through Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission official portal and also Transparency International's official website. We have reviewed over 30 studies, but only discussed some of these studies which we believe have provided interesting new findings to our research. But we only discussed the events from 10 qualitative local government transparency-related articles, which published in 2010 to 2020. Next, I will pass to Sihui for the findings part.
Hi, sir. I'm Xin Sihui, and now I will be presenting on the findings part. The first part of the finding is the issue of transparency. Firstly, corruption happens when there is a lack of transparency. For example, the 1MDB scandal. One of the aspects of the 1MDB scandal was the repeated false declarations made between 2009 and 2014. These false declarations included false declaration by the 1MDB official to bank in Malaysia responsible for forwarding embezzled money and to overseas bank receiving the money. False declarations by the recipient or intermediaries in the transfer of the money, and false statements were made from time to time by senior officials of 1MDB to the 1MDB board, to the Bank Negara, and to banks from which loans were acquired about the purpose of the loan and value of 1MDB asset offered as collateral. This false declaration has been made as a result of the information or the related documents are not made transparent to the public. The second issue of transparency is regarding the Malaysian budgeting. According to the Open Budget Survey 2019, the public availability of budget documents in Malaysia is poor. Documents such as pre-budget statement, citizen budget, and mid-year review were not produced prior to 2018. Although these documents were produced in 2019, the document produced were either published late or not published online or published for internal use only. This reflected that the budget documents in Malaysia were not made transparent to the citizens. Moreover, government agencies are listing reports that are related to public interest, public health, and the environment as official secrets. For example, Department of Environment. According to Cheong 2019, the reply letter regarding the environmental impact report from the Department of Environment was considered an official secret and cannot be circulated. With this, transparency issue arise. Another issue of transparency found in Malaysian public sector is the information on news withheld by Health Ministry, MOH. MOH did not release official announcement or information to the public in a comprehensive and timely manner. For example, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic cases that happened recently. Public do not get to know the infected areas or only got to know it later. Fake news was circulated on the social media as there is no accurate and official announcement from the MOH. Furthermore, data transparency is also another issue of transparency found in Malaysian public sector. For example, financial spending data, especially in the procurement practices, was not disclosed to the public. According to the study of Jamalia, Said, and others, 2015, Medical and Health Department, Information System Department, and Education Department had less emphasis on ensuring the proper usage of funds in an authorized manner. Lack of information communication technology, ICT, in public services is also an issue of transparency found in Malaysian public sector. There is always not enough information available on the official website of the public services. The second part of the finding is the initiative to enhance transparency in the Malaysian public sector. Now I will present on the first initiative, which is open government data. The public services delivery is always the ultimate concern for the government. Public sector adopted information technology, IT, as a means to improve services. This is because IT promotes public services provided and disseminate information on websites to improve the government transparency and accountability. Thus, in order to improve the quality and transparency of service delivery, open government data is implemented. The implementation of open government data will improve the transparency of government services delivery through sharing of data that is accurate, fast, and relevant, as well as increase the nation's digital economy productivity through new industry or innovations. Besides, public sector open data portal was developed in 2014 to support this aspiration of implementing open data. Public sector open data portal launched by the Mampu in September 2015 is one of the initiatives to enhance transparency. The next section will be presented by our friend Winnie.
The second initiative in enhancing transparency in public sector is by implementing anti-corruption mechanisms. The government has established several agencies with the aim of building and strengthening the anti-corruption infrastructure. And the agencies are MACC, PCB, Auditors General's Office, Public Accountants Committee, Police, Attorney General's Office, and Mampu. One of the significant actions taken by the government was the establishment of MACC to address corruption problems in public and private sectors. MACC has aligned its strategic functions centered along enforcement, prevention, and community education to detect and investigate corruption offences. Besides that, MACC also used to detect the risk of corruption in work practices, systems, and procedures, and it also advised on the likelihood on the occurrence of corruption. MACC also educate the public against corruption as well as to enlist and foster their support in combating corruption. The next mechanism will be the Integrity Management System of Malaysia Government. The Special Cabinet Committee on Government Management Integrity has focuses on the efforts to overcome problems and weaknesses in the government financial management, public administration, handling of disciplinary cases, corruption, abuse of power, and malpractices. The establishment of Committee on Integrity Governance is to improve and strengthen the government administrative and management system and reduce bureaucratic red tape to prevent corruption. The next initiative of government is by establishing the Chief Integrity Officer's position in the agencies with the help of CIG and MACC. The role of this position is to oversee integrity matters in an organization and helps to ensure compliance on the rules and procedures, to advise management on integrity matters, to oversee organizational delivery system, and to assist CIG. Besides that, Integrity Unit is a dedicated unit embedded in the organizational structure of an agency, and it has ownership to all matters regarding integrity. The role of the unit is to manage and implement effective initiatives to institutionalize integrity, managing complaints, prevention, compliance, detection, and disciplinary actions in government agencies. MACC has established Integrity Management Division to develop internal policies, to develop best practices, and to coordinate all integrity initiatives in assisting the integrity unit functions. The last mechanism is by introducing Corruption Offenders Database. It is introduced by the Reducing Corruption NKRA under the Government Transformation Program. The database contains detail of a person convicted after a court trial, and the charges and the penalty. It is intended to create greater awareness on the seriousness of the crime of corruption, and it is an effort to curb corruption as well. Next, I will pass to Jolene on the conclusion part.
We continue on the conclusions and also recommendations of the study. From the findings above, it can be seen that the federal government of Malaysia has made a lot of effort to enhance public sector openness and also transparency. However, issues of transparency can still be seen because not all the initiatives taken are effective and some agencies did not actually play their roles to eradicate corruption in Malaysia. As a country progresses towards higher levels of development, it will require increasingly sophisticated and specialized skills to deliver better public services, whereby the public sector is in competition with the private sector to attract the right people. As such, the debate needs to shift from a focus on the numbers on definitions of the public service to a considerations of the quality of people and services provided by the public service, as well as the long-term sustainability of the wage bill. It is important to focus on the people, policies, and institutional and legal framework that contribute to the strength of this public institution. Firstly, the human resource management system of the public service can be strengthened to be more transparent, flexible, and also competency-based. The guiding principles should focus on whether the entrants into the public service are the right people for the right job. Government must make sure the people they hired are at the highest level of integrity and they are recruited and managed transparently. Secondly, to enhance transparency in government operations, sharing of data and engaging citizens can go a long way in facilitating an open environment within the public service. It is necessary to not just build an institutional and legal framework, but also important to foster a strong culture of sharing and collaborations across government departments and even beyond. Thirdly, as Malaysia deals with some of the traditional challenges of efficient service delivery, it must keep abreast with the megatrends related to digitalization and automation, which are changing the way services are delivered to people. While some skills may be redundant, others will receive higher demand, and this has implications for future hiring as well as reskilling and redeploying the current staff in the public service. To successfully reduce corruption, ICT-enabled initiatives generally must move from the increasing information access to ensuring rules are transparent and applied to building abilities to track the decisions and actions of government employees. All in all, commitment at the top and having the right leadership are key to this change in efforts to bring a clean, transparent, and trust government to usher a new era of shared prosperity for Malaysia. That's all from us. Thank you.